it's always a pleasure to come to Dublin and to come to Ireland, so thank you again for the invitation. I want to especially thank the team at Tennis Ireland and Tennis Coach Ireland for the invitation and for all the organisation that goes on to putting something like this on. I've been involved in conferences myself and I know how much work goes on behind the scenes for months. So thank you very much for the invitation and thank you for the, all the great preparation work that's gone on. The brief today from the guys at TCI and at Tennis Ireland was to try and give coaches something that they could take away today. So we discussed some different ideas and we decided that we would do some things based around the RED program. And really the plan today is to give you some very practical ideas which you can take away and you can implement with your kids immediately. It was interesting, Des, I completely agree with the comments you made about a lot of this stuff also being relevant to adults. And if that's already a new thought that you take away from today, we're only 2 minutes in, but you know, the idea that a lot of the things you're going to see today you could also do with adults, I think that's an absolutely key concept which we ought to embrace. I'm going to talk to you to begin with about receiving skills. It's a topic which I'm a big believer in. And so I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about that. And then we have 4 players who are going to join us on court, and we're going to demonstrate some little ideas which you can take away and you can implement into your program. The mere fact that I'm here talking about receiving skills, that already gives you the answer to that question. Is tennis a sending or a receiving game? Of course it's both. And I've already said to you that I believe that the receiving element of the game is very, very important. If you think about what you do on a day-to-day basis, and if we observe typical coaching in Ireland, in the UK, around the world, whatever it might be, I think it's fair to say that most of what gets taught on a tennis court relates to the sending part of the game. How to hit the ball, preparing a little bit earlier, how to hit the ball, all that type of stuff. It's all about the sending part of the game. But actually, if you watch a lot of players, children and adults, a lot of what goes wrong isn't directly to do with the sending part, but it's to do with what comes before it. It's to do with the receiving part. And so what I want to do today is to just get you to think a little bit about what players need to do before they actually contact the ball. Because I believe that a lot of the errors that we see in children and in adults are not directly related to the hitting part of the game, but they're actually to do with what came before the hitting part. Okay? And if that's a new principle to you, then I'd like you to think about that and maybe just reflect on your coaching and think about how much time you spent in your typical coaching day-to-day on the hitting part as opposed to on players getting into position to be able to play the game better. You may or may not be familiar with this. It's what I refer to as the stroke production cycle. It's nice and easy, 5 R's. So the first thing is that we need players to be ready. Now that's physical readiness, but it's also mental readiness. I guess all of you would talk with your players about a ready position, okay, and getting your players into a ready position, ready to receive the ball. But there's more than that. I want you to think as well about a ready condition. A ready condition is a mental attitude because we have to be switched on. The brain has to be turned on. We have to be ready to expect something to come. So just standing in a position here isn't enough. We need the brain to be switched on as well. So we need readiness. We need alertness, physical and mental alertness. We then have to read the incoming ball. I'm going to talk to you about that in a bit more detail. And then, of course, we have to react. And those two keep going round as a little mini cycle within it. So as the ball is coming towards me, I'm reading and then I'm reacting. Reading, reacting as that ball is coming in. Because the ball characteristics of the incoming ball are constantly changing and I'm constantly evaluating the incoming ball as it's getting closer to me. Then it's time to start to think about the racket, the 4th R. And that's the bit I think that most coaches spend most of their time on. And then just to complete the cycle, we have to think about the recovery because we have to work on the basis that the ball's going to go back and that the rally is going to continue. And therefore, the recovery from the previous shot goes some way to dictating the readiness for the next shot in the sequence. So the 5 R's are a simple way to sort of summarize receiving skills and sending skills. And if you look at the 5 R's, it's a simple argument, and you could argue against me, but 4 out of those 5 R's are actually nothing to do with hitting the ball. 4 out of those 5 R's are directly related to the incoming ball. If you like, 80% of the job, it's a simplistic argument, I know, but 80% of the job for the player is about what to do before the strike and after the strike. And I suspect that with very few coaches, you would find that 80% of the time on court is actually spent with what happens before and what happens after. I know it's not quite as simple as that, and of course players come expecting to hit balls, and that's absolutely right. But a lot of the errors that we see and a lot of the challenges which beginner players and young players face on court are not directly to do with the racket, but are much more to do with readiness, reading, reacting, and then recovery. So when you're next on court, just have a think about the bigger picture and think about where you are focusing your attention. And next time you see a player miss a ball, or next time you see a player hit a ball that isn't as effective as it could be, the temptation is to go straight to making some sort of intervention based around what the racket's doing. But just stop and ask yourself the question, is it to do with the racket, or is it actually to do with something before it? And when you're watching your players on video, don't just look at what they do with the elbow and what they do with the shape of the swing and the contact point, but look at what they do from the moment the ball is struck on the other side, because that's when the readiness is called into question. The first step, the second step, the positioning, the ability to move in relation to a moving object, all of that basically determines the positioning, the balance, the control of the player, and only then can we start talking about what the racket does. So how are we going to define receiving skills? Well, I'm sure all of you, like me, would talk about getting the racket back early. We'd talk about all sorts of, little phrases that we have, get the racket back early, or split step, whatever it might be. For today, I'm going to define it as being on time and on balance behind the ball. On time, on balance behind the ball. Now, of course, the beauty of tennis as a sport is that we've got an opponent who is trying to make our life difficult. Okay? This is not golf. This is not something where I can just stand there and take my time and to prepare for my shot. I've got to be able to move in relation to the incoming ball and what the opponent's doing. So there is a time pressure. There is a time pressure. And what we see is that if we manage that time well while the ball is in the air, that should give us the time to get into position and to be in control, to be on balance. And that in itself will influence in a positive way the path of the racket. The path of the racket gets distorted if the body's off balance. And you have to be a supreme athlete to be able to control the path of the racket when you're fighting to maintain your balance. And for young players and for beginners, we need to teach them what to be on balance means. And we're going to look at some of that in some of the exercises we're going to do in a minute. I'm sure you're familiar with this as well. 5 ball characteristics: height, direction, depth, speed, and spin. At the red level, the height, the direction, and depth are most relevant. It's only really later on, orange, green, and beyond, that speed and spin become real factors. You may see balls being hit at different speeds, and in some players you may even start to see a bit of spin, although the red ball doesn't really take the spin. But you can see the shape of the shots there where spin may eventually evolve. But the primary concerns really for young players are height, direction, and depth. And direction is the key. That's the one I want to focus on today. Why? Because it's the one we see first. Okay? So when I'm on the baseline here and I'm facing my opponent, the first thing I will pick up, the first bit of information I will pick up is the direction of the ball. Okay? And that's a huge advantage if you think about it. If I were to tell you you're going to play a match, but you will know in advance which direction every ball is going to go in, then immediately it takes out the, do I have to go this way or that way? So we can teach players to pick up the direction of the ball before anything else. And the other thing is that it's the one that never changes. If you think about it, the height is constantly changing. Before the bounce, after the bounce. The depth is constantly changing. But the direction doesn't change. Once that ball is hit cross-court, it stays cross-court. Once the ball's hit to my left, it stays to my left. So if I can learn to pick up the direction of the ball, the incoming ball from my opponent as early as possible, that gives me a huge advantage because it tells me that I don't have to worry about this side of the court. I know the ball's going this way. So immediately I can eliminate half of the court. And that's a really big process, a really big point for young players to start to learn about, and for adults as well for that matter, that we can start to pick up the direction and use that to our advantage to get into position to be on time and on balance. So talk to your players about the ball characteristics and get them to understand what it means to look for the direction of the ball as early as possible. Because once I know which direction it's going in, I can start to move, I can react, I can prepare, and then I can play. And the longer I leave the process of identifying which way the ball's going, the less time I have to prepare. It's effectively a time management process. I do have time, but I've got to use the time whilst the ball's in the air to maximum effect. So you'll hear me talking quite a lot about what to do in relation to the net and what to do in relation to the incoming bounce of the ball, because those are markers in relation to that time management process. And there's a few key things I want you to see here. This is the net. This line marks the net. And why is that significant? Because I want players who are used to looking down the far end of the court for their information. If you watch a lot of beginner players, children and adults, the preparation is left far too late. You still see some players preparing after the bounce of the ball. So I want to get my players here used to looking down the far end of the court, because the sooner they can pick the information up, the sooner they can start to prepare. Okay? So the first thing we're going to look for is players who are really ready. So are you two ready? How can we look ready? That's it. And you've got to look at you two players here. All right. So this is how it's going to work. You don't need to be ready. You're going to roll it. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to roll the ball. I'm going to roll it either to the green one or to the blue one. And I want you to call out green or blue. Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay. Now how about you move and get it? Now, a couple of things here. I want to be very deliberate with the hand gestures here. I want the players to look for the information and start to read the signs. Okay? So I'm not looking for bluffing and trickery here. If I look down here, which way is that ball going? It's going to blue. So she's already learning that she can pick up visual cues from the other end of the court, which give her a time advantage in picking up the direction of the incoming ball. Are you ready? Let's try one more time. Look ready for me. Get your hands out in front. Good. Okay. She did it. She called it out before the ball crossed the net. And that's really important. I want her to start to use the time available to her to pick up the direction as quickly as possible. Okay? So, roll the ball back. Boys, did you see what we're doing? Are you ready? Okay, let's have a look. Here we go. Very good. Roll it back. Off you go, ladies. Go on. Good. Okay. I think it's really important that we have the kids feeding for activities like this. We don't need always to rely on the coaches to do this sort of thing. These are group activities that you can do where you can get kids to work together and to learn to cooperate, but there's a specific task as well. Let's make the call nice and loud. Okay, just stop for a second. A few little things here we just want to tidy up. Can we make sure that we roll the ball back from where we get it? So instead of going back to the middle and then rolling it, can you roll it from where you got it? Can you do that? Okay, let's go. Okay. Good. Remember to call it before the ball crosses the net. Okay, nice. All right, so what I want to do with these players is to help them not just to be able to pick up the direction of the ball, but as I said in the definition earlier, I'm looking for them to be on time and on balance, okay? What do you think it looks like when you're standing in a balanced way? How does it look? Okay, so your feet are apart, aren't they? Yeah? So I want you to think about your belly button. It's in here, all right? Your belly button. And I want you to keep your belly button in between your feet the whole time. So when you're moving across to pick up the ball, is the belly button in between my 2 feet? If it is, I'm balanced. Okay? Let's have a go again. Here we go. Very nice, good. Roll the ball back from where you pick it up, remember, yeah? That's it, good girl. Okay. If you need to take another little step, you can. Nice. Okay, let's stop there. Let's swap over. Let's change over. Swap over here as well. Good. Are we ready? Show me you look ready. Show me you look ready. Okay, get your hands out in front. Okay, let's go. Nice. Okay, just keep it rolling for now. Yeah, just on the floor. Okay, just stop for a second. Now, these four are doing it pretty well. And you know the phrase, never work with children and animals. Okay, but so far this is going well. I'm putting my neck on the line here with this, but so far it's going well. Now, what you'll notice when you do this with a lot of kids, can I just move you up to the side for a second? You'll see a lot of kids getting into positions like this to pick the ball up, and getting into positions like this to pick the ball up here, okay? In other words, if you look at the positions they're getting into to pick up a rolling ball, we need to make sure that the positions we're getting here translate into what we want when we want them hitting, okay? I'm going to talk later about the builder and the architect. And one of the things you have to do as a coach is to know where what you are doing today is going to take things in the future, okay? So I want to make sure that when we're picking the ball up, we're going to try now to position the outside foot behind the ball to pick it up here. So can you roll one to me for me? Okay, so I'm going to pick up the position of the ball here. Can you see how I'm lining up there to pick up the ball? Okay, try and go to the green one this time. Oh, that's a very slow one. I've got time for that. So I'll pick it up from that position rather than to pick it up from, do it again to the green for me, please. Rather than to pick it up and get into this position here. This is not just a rolling exercise. This is about creating habits for receiving the incoming ball. Okay? So we need to make sure that the position is as good as we can make it. Let's have one more go. Good. So you can see balance, you can see a wide base, and you can see the outside foot there behind the ball. Good. Outside foot behind the ball. Okay. Roll it back. Okay, now did you see that one there with the crossover? Those are the ones we want to avoid, okay? Let's try one more time. Can you roll it to the blue one? But just stop a second. Can you try and make sure you get this foot behind the ball here? Okay, let's go. Okay, try one more time. Try and get this foot out to here. That's it, yeah? Okay, so go back to the middle. Okay, here we go. Nice and lively, come on. Good boy, well done. Okay. Okay, let's stop there. So, clearly we need to spend time on this, and it's the sort of thing you can do with your young kids. You can do it in schools. You can get them to feed for each other. I want to progress it to give you a few different ideas. So, the next of the isolated drills is a throw and catch. Nice. Okay, good. All right, let's have a look. Nice. Show me that you're on balance. Think about where your belly button is. That's lovely. Good girl. Well done. Now, you might look at this and think, well, why don't we get them to throw back with two hands to simulate forehands and backhands? That can come. I think that's better done with a bigger ball rather than a small ball like this. This, more than anything, is about moving and positioning rather than sending the ball back. Okay? I'm more interested in what they're doing before they catch, okay, rather than what happens after they catch. Not too fast with the throw, okay? Not too fast with the throw. Okay. Good girl, well done. All right, stop there. So I want to just try to get you to think about this outside foot, because when you get older and you're playing really good level tennis, a lot of your forehands and your backhands, you're going to play from this position here if you're a right-hander, okay? And as a left-hander, you're going to play a lot of balls from this position here, okay? So this is my outside foot. This one here is out to the side of the court. Can you see that? Let me just show you one more time. Can you hold that for me? Don't fiddle with it, but you hold it for me. Okay, so can you see here how my outside foot is behind the ball? Now, what I want them to think about here is I put a lot of emphasis on a triangle, okay? A triangle is something that they know from school, and it's a very visual thing. So what you have here is a triangle setup, which is made up of my left foot, my right foot, and my contact point. So if you look from above, I'm looking for a triangle setup. It won't always happen, but this gives me a good balanced setup, which I can then use for my stroke production later. Okay? What I want to avoid is swinging an inside leg across into this position here to catch from there. Okay? So I'm looking for more than just the ability to see the ball and to catch it. I'm looking to try and optimize and to get the best possible positions, because on receiving the ball, I've then got to do the job of returning the ball. And when I'm returning the ball, I want to have as many tactical choices as I possibly can. Okay? Now, if I start blocking off and crossing over with the wrong foot, then I limit my tactical choices significantly. Okay? So let's do it one more time. Can you throw to me one more time? So I'm going to catch from there, and there's my triangle. 1, 2, 3. You see that? And I can go back. Here I go again. And to there. Can you see that? Okay? So let's have a go. I'll take that. You can go back in. Get your hands out your pockets. Come on. Right, there we go. Good boy. Okay? Just relax. You're doing well. You're doing nicely. Good. Nice. So stop for a second, boys and girls. You two, which foot do we want to try and get out behind the ball on a forehand? If the ball's going to the blue cone, which foot's got to go behind the ball? Good. And if it's going to the green cone, which foot's got to get behind the ball? Good girl. Well done. Okay, let's have a look. Let's do it again. Okay. One thing you notice with a lot of young kids is how they move, and they find very narrow bases. It's really important that we get them to understand what balance is about. And that's why I like to put emphasis on where the belly button is, simply because it's a very visual thing. They know where their belly button is. And if they can manage where the belly button is in relation to the base, then that's a definition of balance for them. Okay, and they're doing fine here. Nice, good. Okay. Good. Okay, let's stop there. Let's move it on. So can we now have a racket? Could you two get your rackets? Okay, so it's going to look something like this. Just move across to the side. Take the ball. Okay. So can you throw the ball to me, to the blue one? So I'm going to get into this position here to hit. Just give it a little bit more height. Okay? Can you see? So I'm in position here to hit from there. So I'm going from the middle, but this time I've got to call out the direction, haven't I? Okay? Blue. And back in. Green. Blue. Okay? So I want to make sure that I'm picking up the direction as early as possible, and I'm using the net as my reference point. And I want to make sure that I get myself set on time, on balance, behind the ball, and then we can start thinking about hitting the ball. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, get another ball. Yeah. Okay, off you go. Very nice. Try and call it before the ball crosses the net. Did you say anything? Did you say anything? Oh, try and say something before the ball crosses the net, yeah? Okay. Right, let's have a look again. All right, okay. So can you see what's happening here? Let's just see it one more time. Are you ready? Okay. Can you see what's happening here? Let's have a look one more time. Girls, carry on. Okay. Let's see one more. Have a look. So it's happened 3 times on the trot, yeah? So I want to try to get you not to do this, but to try and get this foot behind the ball. So I'm going to see if I can get you to play from that position instead. So let's see if we can get this foot closer to the ball. Okay? Try. That's better. Well done. Nice. Okay. If you end up stretching a long way like this, what does that tell you about things? Do you think you could take another little step? Okay. Okay. Very nice. Good. Well done. Well done. So now he's getting the lead foot behind the ball. Good. Good. Okay. All right, let's stop there. Now let's see if we can do this over the net. So this time, instead of calling red or blue, you're just going to call forehand or backhand. And I'm just going to have these two calling, okay? So you two can just hit the ball back. You don't have to say anything. You two, I want you to call forehand or backhand by when? When have you got to call it? Yeah, but that's not the net anymore, is it? Where's the net now? That's it. So the net's here now. So every time the ball's crossing the net, I want to hear a nice loud shout. Okay? Are we ready? Let's go. Good girl. Very nice. Good girl. Well done. Good. Good. Yeah.
Temporarily a power issue, so your thing is not.
Okay, just stop for a second. All right, so what are we trying to do at this end? What have we got to try to do? Got to?
Call it.
Yeah, you've got to call it when the ball's crossing the net. And then the other thing we have to try to do is to get ourselves in position so we're on balance, yes? So which foot are you going to play off when you're playing when you're playing your forehand? Which foot are you going to play from? Good boy. And which foot are you going to play off when you're playing your backhand? Good boy. And which foot are you going to play off when you play your forehand? Good girl. Well done. Okay, now let's swap over. So you two now are going to call it. No, you can stay here. It's all right. You can stay here. You two are going to call it. You two can relax for a minute, and you two can just feed. Okay, off we go. Yeah, they've got a power issue. Fortunately, I've got a loud voice, so you should still be able to hear me. Nice and early. Yep. Good. Okay. You'll see in the presentation when it finally comes back, this is called inside to out, okay? And it's just a little drill which is good for getting the players to think about picking up the direction of the incoming ball. We'll sort some lines out for you in a second. Okay. So these two are going to be the actors or the leaders. These two are going to be in charge. And the way it's going to work is that these two can hit the ball wherever they want in the opponent's court. And if the ball lands in the middle, between the lines, if I can take the ball, then you've got to go to the outside. So can you see these two lines here? So you have to try and hit outside these two lines. And if I hit it outside, you've got to try and hit it back to the middle. Does that make sense? Let's try it. Are you ready? Look ready for me. Good. So I hit to the outside, so you hit back to the middle. Good boy. I hit to the middle, you hit to the outside. Good. Very good try. Well done. So, where do you go if it's on the outside? Where do you go? If it's on the outside, you go back to the middle, yeah? Okay? So this is a way in which they can start to identify quickly which direction the ball's going in, but then also link it to some sort of very simple tactical response as well, okay? So if it goes out wide, they go back to the middle and vice versa. But the main goal here is, can I pick up the direction of the incoming ball early? Can I get myself set? And if I'm on time and on balance, I have more control then over the direction of the ball that I'm going to hit back. Okay? So you two are going to be in charge. You can hit the ball wherever you like. Off you go. You go as well. Are you ready? You can start. Go on. You're on here. Good girl. Well done. Nice. That's it. Okay. Hard luck. Hard luck. You come back to the middle. Get yourself ready. Good. Okay. So remember, if it comes in the middle, you go to the outside, yeah? Okay? Good. Okay. All right, so let's stop. Now we understand the drill. Let's go back to calling forehands and backhands. When have we got to call it by? When the ball crosses the net. Yeah, when the ball crosses the net. So you're going to hit just as you were, but this time I want to hear forehand or backhand, and then seeing you move to that side or the other. Okay, are you ready? Let's go. Right. Okay, it needs to be earlier than that. That was after the bounce. Good. Try and call it by now. Now. Good. Yeah. So let's try to get outside the circle before the ball crosses the net and back inside the circle before the ball crosses the net. It's quite tough, this one. Good. Easy, girls, easy. Nice and easy. Very good. Back in. Good boy. So you can use this to sharpen up the speed of the movement to the ball, or if you've got players who don't really understand recovery, you can challenge them to get back inside the circle before a certain point, before the ball crosses the net, for example. And of course, you can do these sort of things on a baseline with a full court and a yellow ball or anybody. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Well done. We better stop there. Can we just say thank you to the 4 boys and girls? Well done. You can go and sit down. One that's always worked well for me and I still use when I'm watching players is eyes, feet, hands. That's what I want to look for. What are the eyes doing? Are the eyes and the mind engaged? Then we have a chance. Then we want to see the feet going, and the hands go last. What you see with a lot of players is the opposite. They have a spring-loaded arm. So the ball comes, the first thing that happens is the arm goes back, and then they move. Okay, so you've got the wrong order going on there. You've got a misfiring of all the different segments. So maybe eyes, feet, hands might work for you. It certainly does for me and applies very well with all these little activities. We want to see an athletic ready condition. It's not enough for a player just to be standing there like this. I want to see a base which is wide enough for a push-off either side. If you've got players who have a base that's very narrow, their first step is going to be virtually non-existent, and they'll be behind the time. They need to be there on time, on balance. They're going to struggle. Positioning behind the ball, as I mentioned earlier, ideally with the lead foot, the outside foot, okay? Forehand and backhand. That gives them balance. It will later on give them tactical options to be able to do various different things with the ball. Move first, prepare second. That's another way of referring to eyes, feet, hands. I want to see the movement first before the preparation. As I just said, a lot of the time the racket goes back before they've even started moving, and that compromises the movement. So my question really to you is, how much time do you focus on the incoming ball, and to what extent is the ability of the players to deal with the incoming ball affecting the ability to send the ball back with impact, if you like? Okay? So a lot of players will hit the ball back, but are they doing it optimally? Are they doing it really effectively? And is their positioning and their control, their balance, is that the thing that's affecting the path of the racket and the effectiveness of the ball they're sending back? So have a think about this later today and tomorrow and beyond. What are you going to start doing as a result of this? Are you going to go back and have a look at the way in which you tend to teach your strokes? Think about the 5 R's. Are you going to continue to work on receiving skills, in which case I've confirmed it? And perhaps there are certain things that you might stop doing as a result. I was talking to a coach just the other day who really had no sort of awareness of the idea that if we weren't careful, the hips get blocked off. And that then leads to shots with a lot of arm but no body. Okay, so just have a think about some of the ideas that I've presented to you, and just have a look at your players and see what's going on and see if there are opportunities for you to tighten things up a little bit. So thank you for listening. You've got 3 more of these with me, I'm afraid, so you're stuck with me for the day. But that's just a first little presentation, just to start thinking about the incoming ball and receiving skills. And if you're interested and you want to know more, there is on the table over there, you've got it in your packs as well, there is a receiving skills DVD, okay, which has got an hour of all this type of stuff with kids, which you can take home and you can implement into your program as well. Okay, so thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you soon.